Trump's one big beautiful bill passed the Republican controlled House of Representatives last night in the middle of the night. And there's nothing that is big or beautiful about it for the vast majority of Americans, given how much is in the bill that is taking away from the lowest earning Americans in this country and quite literally taking healthcare and taking food stamps away from the lowest earning Americans and giving tax breaks to the richest in this country, the people who certainly need it the absolute least. So this is an absolutely disgraceful day in America. And before we look at what's in this bill, please be sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel. It helps out the algorithm a lot. So we'll head over here to Investopedia, where we have the CBO once again here issuing a report that finds that the bill is going to help the wealthiest households. The Republican budget reconciliation bill, currently making its way through Congress, would help the finances of the top 10% of earners while hurting those of the bottom 10%. If passed, the one big beautiful bill by 2033 would result in the lowest income households in the US being 4% financially worse off, with the highest earners gaining 2%, according to the nonpartisan Congressional Budget Office. Cuts to Medicaid and food aid would affect families earning low income, while tax cuts included in the bill would benefit wealthier taxpayers. The one big beautiful bill would hurt America's lowest income households while enriching its wealthiest ones, a new analysis found. So this is coming from the guy that campaigned on giving a leg up to lower and middle income Americans, many who are very supportive of him and his whole brand. And we heard Trump say again and again, we're not going to touch Medicaid, no cuts to Medicaid whatsoever. But what's in this bill? Work requirements that would require people who receive Medicaid to work 80 hours a month. And this is in a country where many people who are receiving Medicaid are already working. It's just that their jobs' wages are so low that they don't make enough to be able to get healthcare any other way other than Medicaid. And what's going to end up happening here is you're going to have a lot of people who do qualify but get bogged down in the paperwork and the reporting requirements, where you're going to have people who are losing their health care under this bill. There's no ifs, ands, and buts about it. It's estimated that some 12 million people could lose their health care under this new bill. Excuse me. And food stamp work requirements the age would be raised for food stamp work requirements. And what a lot of grocery stores, in fact, are saying is that this is going to affect jobs as well, because what you have is people who receive SNAP. What they do is they go and they inject it right back into their local economies, right? And these SNAP benefits that people go and inject into their local economies employ people in local communities, as well as provides a revenue stream to all sorts of different corporations and local businesses through people using their SNAP benefits at these different businesses, right? They don't hoard them and sit on them like the richest people in this country do with their wealth. They go and inject it back into the economy. Now, this bill faces an uphill fight in the Senate, and it's very likely that I think some of these, especially in related to Medicaid, some of the more harsher requirements, such as this 80-hour work week or 80 hours a month requirement that the Republicans passed in this bill, I think that a lot of it's going to be watered down in the end because you have a very, very divided Senate, and you have some Republican senators who are not completely 100% on board with everything that is in this bill. So let me show you guys an article here from HuffPost that says Senate Republicans won't accept House tax and spending cut bill. The House and Senate are about to start a tug of war. Senate Republicans aren't on board with the tax and spending cuts their House counterparts passed Thursday. Senate Majority Leader John Thune said his conference would seek changes to the tax side of the bill and the Medicaid side as well. We want to do things that are meaningful in terms of reforming programs, strengthening programs without affecting beneficiaries, Thune told reporters in a response to a question about Medicaid. So it's, I would say right now, still a very active discussion. The so-called One Big Beautiful Bill Act would cut spending on federal health and nutrition programs by $1 trillion to offset part of the nearly $4 trillion in tax cuts. It's no surprise that Senate Republicans differ from their House counterparts. From the outset, GOP senators wanted to do the tax part of the legislation as its own bill instead of piling it into one gigantic piece of legislation. Some senators are still talking about doing separate bills. Break it up and focus on the areas of agreement, Senator Ron Johnson from Wisconsin told reporters on Thursday. Republicans agree on increased border spending, extending tax cuts that will expire next year, and cutting spending, Johnson said. He suggested leaving new tax provisions, which would include Trump's tax breaks on tips and overtime, for a separate bill. Rand Paul blasted the House Republican bill for its fiscal imbalance. The Congressional Budget Office has estimated the bill would add more than $2 trillion to federal budget deficits over 10 years. The project afoot isn't going to fix the deficit at all, Paul said. I'm not for continuing the Biden spending levels or the Biden deficits. Once the Republicans vote for this, the Republicans are going to own the deficit. Still, it's possible that the Senate and House Republicans will reconcile their differences and agree on one bill. Another senator to watch, Josh Hawley, who has been outspoken about his opposition to any Medicaid cuts. From Missouri, right? I mean, Missouri has one of the highest amount of population on Medicaid in the country, so that would make sense. An earlier version of the bill, including roughly $700 billion in Medicaid cuts, with much of the savings resulting from more frequent eligibility checks and work requirements that would deny benefits to unemployed, able-bodied adults without dependents. To appease conservatives, House Republicans leaders changed the bill to make the work requirement start in 2026 instead of 2028. Hawley said he was fine with that change. So, yeah, for some of these guys, we're not cutting people off of their Medicaid soon enough, right? I mean, just imagine how sadistic you would have to be to look at this bill that's quite literally taking food and healthcare from the poorest in our country in order to give more to the people who have the most, and going, that doesn't do that enough. I mean, just imagine how cruel and cynical you would have to be to think that. This is a very, very bad bill for the American people, given all of the things laid out there. And for the lowest earning Americans in this country, which are far, far more numerous than the highest earning people in this country, what you are going to see is that any benefit from tax cuts that Trump is bringing through this bill, they are going to be wiped away by you having to pay more for healthcare, or not being able to get any healthcare at all whatsoever, and having to pay more for food based on not being able to receive food stamps. It's estimated that up to 11 million people could lose their food stamp benefits if this bill goes through the Senate in its current form. So you would only hope that there are enough Republican senators who are going to look at the contents of this bill, look at their constituency, and go, this cannot possibly pass because of how many of my constituents I'm going to be leaving out in the dust. And you would only hope there's enough Republicans with a spine to stand up to the Republican House and stand up to Donald Trump and say, no, we are not going to take benefits away from the poorest in this country to give more money to the richest. That is unconscionable. That is not what Donald Trump campaigned on. And it is certainly something we should not be doing in the United States of America in this day and age. We'll see how this unfolds. Let's hope that there's Republicans in the Senate who still have a spine. I don't have my hopes up, but it just seems like if you're a Josh Hawley, for instance, it seems like it might be a political suicide to go forward with voting for this bill. And it seems like it's going to be watered down significantly. That's my expectation, is that the House Republicans aren't going to get everything that they want, but it kind of depends on the outlook that different Republicans in the Senate have on how much this voting for this bill might affect them in the 2026 midterm elections. It remains to be seen. But that's all I got for you guys in this one. Thank you so much for watching. Please be sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and comment down below. Let me know what you think. All right, take care. Bye.